But another part, the part that had grown stronger over 6 months of rebuilding her life, wondered if that was really what she wanted. "Let me think about it," she said finally. "The Phoenix Tower section. Can we remove it?" James studied her carefully. "Are you sure? This is your chance." "I'm sure about showing them my success. I'm not sure about public humiliation." Elena straightened her shoulders. "I want to win because my work is better, not because I expose theirs. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense." James smiled with what looked like approval. "I'll have the slides modified. But Elena, you should know something. The Phoenix Tower has structural problems. Serious ones. Marcus and Sophie modified your original design to cut costs, and the building is now failing inspection. It's going to come out eventually. Then let it come out on its own," Elena said. "Today is about my future, not their past." ## the presentation. 2 hours later, Elena stood on stage in front of 300 of the world's most influential architects. Her hands shook slightly as she gripped the remote control for her presentation, but her voice stayed steady. "Sustainable architecture isn't just about solar panels and recycled materials," she began. "It's about creating communities that nurture both people and planet. Spaces where residents don't just live, but thrive." She clicked through her slides, showing the Willow Heights design in stunning detail. The integrated gardens, the renewable energy systems, the community spaces designed to foster connection. With each image, she saw the audience lean forward with interest. From the 4th row, James Ashford watched with quiet satisfaction. From the 7th row, Marcus Chen's face grew progressively paler. The dream that was never hers. Elena Martinez stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of Sterling and Associates, watching the Manhattan skyline glow in the sunset. Her reflection smiled back at her, a woman who had everything figured out at 28. Senior architect at one of the city's most prestigious firms, engaged to Marcus Chen, the brilliant senior partner everyone admired, and best friends with Sophie Laurent, her college roommate who had joined the firm a year after her. Life was perfect. Too perfect, as she would soon discover. "Elena, darling." Marcus's voice cut through her thoughts. She turned to see him striding toward her. His designer suit crisp and his smile charming as always. "Are you ready for tonight?" Tonight was supposed to be special. Marcus had been secretive for weeks, hinting at a surprise. Elena suspected he was planning an intimate engagement party at the Skyline, the exclusive rooftop venue where they had their first date 2 years ago. "I'm ready," she said, letting him kiss her cheek. His lips felt cold, but she blamed it on the air conditioning. "Sophie's meeting us there," Marcus added, checking his phone. She insisted on helping set everything up. Elena's heart warmed. Sophie was always thoughtful like that, always present for the important moments. They had been roommates at Columbia University, staying up late drawing architectural sketches, dreaming about the buildings they would design together someday. When Sophie struggled to find work after graduation, Elena had recommended her to Sterling and Associates. Marcus had hired her immediately. That was 18 months ago. Now Sophie was thriving, recently promoted to junior partner. Elena felt proud, like a big sister watching her protégé succeed. ## the first crack. The taxi ride to the Skyline should have taken 20 minutes, but traffic was horrible. Elena texted Sophie twice, receiving quick responses that everything was going perfectly, and she should take her time. When Elena finally arrived at the venue, she noticed something odd. The elegant glass doors were locked, with no valet in sight. The restaurant looked dark inside, unusual for a Friday evening. She tried the handle again, confused. "Miss Martinez?" A young waiter appeared from the side entrance, looking nervous. "I'm sorry, but the venue is closed for a private event." "I know," Elena said, smiling. "I'm the guest of honor. Marcus Chen arranged everything." The waiter's face went pale. I think there's been a mistake. Mr. Chen specifically said no one else should be allowed upstairs." Something cold settled in Elena's stomach. Upstairs. Before the waiter could respond, Elena heard it. Laughter. Music. The unmistakable sound of a party in full swing, coming from the rooftop level. Her party. Without her. She pushed past the stammering waiter and took the elevator up, her heart pounding. The doors opened to reveal the Skyline's famous rooftop garden. decorated with white lights and elegant flower arrangements. At least 50 people filled the space, colleagues from Sterling and Associates, clients, industry leaders, all holding champagne glasses and celebrating. But they weren't celebrating her. Hashtag the truth burns brightest. Elena stood frozen at the elevator doors, watching the scene unfold like a nightmare she couldn't wake from. At the center of the crowd, Marcus stood with his arm around Sophie's waist. Not a friendly casual touch. The possessive grip of a man claiming what was his. Sophie wore the emerald dress Elena had helped her pick out last week, the one Sophie said she needed for a family dinner. Her left hand sparkled with a diamond ring Elena didn't recognize. A ring that should have been Elena's. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus's voice boomed through the speaker system. "Thank you all for coming tonight to celebrate this incredible moment. As many of you know, Sterling and Associates has been working on the Phoenix Tower project for the past 8 months. This revolutionary sustainable skyscraper will transform the downtown skyline and set new standards for eco-friendly urban development." Elena's blood went cold. The Phoenix Tower. Her design. Her passion project. The building concept she had poured her heart into for over a year, working late nights and weekends, sacrificing time with Marcus because she thought he understood her dedication. "And tonight," Marcus continued, pulling Sophie closer, "I'm thrilled to announce that Sophie Loren will be taking the lead on this project as our newest senior partner." The crowd erupted in applause. Sophie blushed prettily, accepting congratulations from everyone around her. Elena watched her best friend smile and nod, discussing design elements that Elena had created, accepting praise for innovations that came from Elena's sketches. "This is also a special night for another reason," Marcus added, his voice softening. "Sophie has agreed to become my wife." The world tilted sideways. Elena grabbed the elevator door frame to steady herself, but her movement caught someone's attention. Jessica Wong, one of the firm's senior architects, spotted her and gasped, "Elena!" The entire rooftop fell silent. 50 pairs of eyes turned toward her. Marcus's face went white, then red. Sophie's mouth opened in shock, her hand flying to her throat. Elena found her voice, though it came out strangled and distant. "The Phoenix Tower is my design." "Elena, what are you doing here?" Marcus recovered quickly, his tone shifting to concern that sounded fake to her ears now. "I thought you were visiting your mother in Boston this weekend." So that was it. He had lied to her, sent her away so he could steal her work and celebrate with her best friend. With his actual fiancée, apparently. "That's my design," Elena repeated, louder this time. She walked into the crowd, which parted like she carried a disease. "I spent 13 months developing the Phoenix Tower. Every sustainable feature, every structural innovation, every single detail came from my work." "That's a serious accusation," Marcus said smoothly, but she could see the calculation in his eyes. "Sophie has been instrumental in developing this project. Perhaps you're confused about your own contributions." "Confused?" Elena's voice rose. "I have dated sketches, timestamped computer files, emails detailing every aspect of that design. I created the Phoenix Tower." Sophie finally spoke, her voice small and trembling. "Elena, I know you're upset about Marcus and me. I'm sorry we didn't tell you sooner. But taking credit for my work won't change anything." The absolute audacity of it took Elena's breath away. She stared at the woman she had considered her closest friend, the woman she had helped through every challenge, and saw a stranger wearing Sophie's face. "We need to talk privately," Marcus said firmly, gripping Elena's arm. His fingers dug in hard enough to hurt. "You're making a scene." "I'm making a scene?" Elena yanked her arm free. "You stole my work, you're engaged to my best friend, and I'm the problem?" The calculated destruction. The next week moved like a fever dream. Elena went to the office Monday morning, ready to present her evidence to the firm's partners. She brought her original sketches, her computer files, everything that proved the Phoenix Tower was her creation. But Marcus had moved faster. "Elena Martinez, please come to conference room A immediately." The intercom announcement came at 9:15, before she even reached her desk. 6 partners sat around the conference table, their faces grave. Marcus stood at the head, looking professional and concerned. Sophie sat beside him, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. Elena, senior partner Robert Sterling began, his voice heavy with disappointment. We've received very serious complaints about your behavior. My behavior? Elena clutched her portfolio of evidence. Mr. Sterling, I need to show you something. The Phoenix Tower design was thoroughly documented as Sophie Lawrence's work, Marcus interrupted, sliding a folder across the table. These are Sophie's original sketches, dated from 10 months ago, along with her computer files and project proposals. Elena opened the folder with shaking hands. Inside were designs that looked exactly like hers, but dated 2 months before her own earliest sketches. The timestamps on the digital files matched. The sketches even included Sophie's signature. That's impossible, Elena whispered. These are forgeries. They have to be. Are you calling Sophie a liar? Robert Sterling asked sharply. I'm saying someone altered these files. Elena pulled out her own portfolio, spreading her sketches on the table. Look at these. You can see the development process, how the design evolved over time. These aren't copies. This is original creative work. Marcus sighed. The sound of a patient man dealing with an unstable woman. Elena, Sophie told me you might react this way. She said you've been acting strangely for months, making comments about her success, seeming jealous of her promotion. That's not true. You've also been displaying erratic behavior at work. Another partner added, consulting notes. Coming in late, missing deadlines, snapping at colleagues. Elena's mind raced. Yes, she had been late a few times because she was working on Phoenix Tower from home. Yes, she had missed some minor deadlines because she was focused on her major project. And yes, she had been short with people because she was exhausted from pouring everything into her design. But none of that mattered now. She could see it in their faces. They had already decided. Additionally, Marcus continued, his voice turning cold, your behavior at the Skyline last Friday was completely unacceptable. You crashed a private event, made wild accusations, and caused a scene in front of our most important clients. You invited me. Elena's voice cracked. You said it was a surprise for me. I never invited you to that event, Marcus said smoothly. I have no idea where you got that idea. In fact, I specifically told you I would be busy all weekend with client meetings. Lie. It was all lies. But Elena had no proof. No text messages because Marcus always called her. No emails because they discussed everything in person. She had trusted him completely, never thinking she might need evidence of their relationship. Elena, Robert Sterling said, his tone final. Given your recent performance issues, your concerning behavior toward colleagues, and this serious incident of harassment toward Sophie and Marcus, we have no choice but to terminate your employment effective immediately. The words hit her like physical blows. Fired. Blacklisted. Her reputation destroyed. Please collect your personal items from your desk under security supervision. Sterling continued. Your final paycheck will be mailed to you. And Elena, I strongly suggest you seek professional help. She wanted to scream, to flip the table, to force them to see the truth. But she had nothing. Marcus and Sophie had planned this perfectly, stolen her work and framed her as an unstable, jealous woman. So she stood, gathered her portfolio with shaking hands, and walked out of the conference room with her head high. She would not let them see her break. Not yet. ## rock bottom. The apartment was the next blow. Elena came home that evening to find the locks changed. A notice taped to the door informed her that the leaseholder, Marcus Chan, had terminated her occupancy rights. Her belongings sat in boxes in the building's storage room. Of course, the apartment was in his name. She had moved in with him a year ago, trusting that they were building a life together. Now she had nowhere to live. Elena's mother in Boston offered her old room, but Elena couldn't face the pity in her parents' eyes. Not yet. Instead, she used her savings to rent a tiny studio in Queens, a shoebox with a leaky faucet and neighbors who argued through the thin walls at all hours. She had $6,000 in her bank account, no job, no references she could use, and a reputation in the architecture world that Marcus had efficiently destroyed. Elena spent 2 weeks in that studio, alternating between rage and despair. She applied to other firms, but none would even interview her. Word had spread. The unstable woman who stole credit for her colleagues' work and harassed her superiors. Nobody wanted that liability. She took a job at a coffee shop in Manhattan, serving lattes to people who used to be her peers. Some recognized her. Most pretended not to. The pity in their eyes hurt worse than the rejection. At night she tried to design, but everything felt tainted. Every line she drew reminded her of the Phoenix Tower, of how completely she had been betrayed. Her engagement ring sat in a drawer. She couldn't bring herself to pawn it yet, even though she needed the money. It represented the last piece of the life she had lost. One evening in late November, 2 months after her termination, Elena sat on her narrow bed staring at her empty sketchbook. She had opened it an hour ago, pen in hand, ready to create something new. But the page stayed blank. Maybe she should give up. Move back to Boston. Get a normal job. Forget she ever dreamed of designing buildings that would outlast her lifetime. A knock at the door interrupted her spiral. Elena frowned. She never had visitors. She opened the door to find no one there, just a cream-colored envelope lying on the threshold. Her name was written across it in elegant calligraphy. Miss Elena Martinez. Inside, she found a letter on expensive paper, written in the same careful hand. Dear Miss Martinez, my name is James Ashford. I represent Ashford Development Group, and I have been following your career with great interest. I have reviewed your portfolio, particularly your innovative approaches to sustainable architecture. I am currently seeking a talented architect for a confidential residential development project. If you are interested, I would like to offer you a consulting position with complete creative freedom and competitive compensation. Due to the sensitive nature of this project, all communication will be conducted through secure channels. If you accept, please respond to the enclosed email address within 48 hours. Sometimes the greatest opportunities arise from the ashes of our worst defeats. Respectfully, James Ashford. Elena read the letter 3 times, searching for a trap. Ashford Development Group was a name she recognized vaguely. An elite firm that worked on exclusive international projects. But why would they contact her now, when her career was in ruins? She looked at the blank sketchbook on her bed, then back at the letter. What did she have to lose? She opened her laptop and typed a response, her hands shaking slightly as she pressed send. Maybe this was a scam. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it was pity from someone who heard about her situation. Or maybe, just maybe, it was a second chance. The response came within minutes. Welcome aboard, Miss Martinez. Let's create something extraordinary. For the first time in 2 months, Elena felt something other than despair. It was small, fragile, barely there. But it was hope. The anonymous benefactor. The first project brief arrived at midnight. Elena had been lying awake, staring at her ceiling and wondering if the job offer was real, when her laptop pinged with an encrypted email. Project designation: Willow Heights. Objective: design a sustainable residential community for 200 families. Focus on eco-friendly materials, renewable energy integration, and community-centered spaces. Budget: no limitations. Timeline: 6 months for initial concepts. Your only constraint is your imagination, Miss Martinez. Show me what you can truly create when no one is holding you back. No limitations. The words felt impossible. At Sterling and Associates, every project had been governed by budget constraints, client demands, and the firm's established aesthetic. Even the Phoenix Tower, her passion project, had been designed within strict parameters. Now someone was giving her complete freedom. Elena opened her sketchbook, the one that had remained blank for 2 months, and began to draw. At first, her hand moved hesitantly, afraid of failure. But as the hours passed, something inside her broke open. All the creativity she had been suppressing, all the innovative ideas she had shelved because they were too risky, or not commercially viable, came pouring out. By sunrise, her studio floor was covered with sketches. Buildings that curved like waves, integrated gardens on every level, solar panels disguised as artistic installations, rainwater collection systems that doubled as decorative water features. It was bold. It was different. It was everything she had always wanted to create but never dared. She photographed her work and sent it through the encrypted channel, then collapsed into bed, exhausted but energized in a way she hadn't felt since before the betrayal. The response came 3 hours later. Extraordinary. Continue. #. Healing through creation. Over the next few weeks, Elena's life developed a rhythm. She worked at the coffee shop during the day, served lattes with a smile, and tried not to think about the architects who came in discussing projects she could have been leading. At night, she transformed into someone else. Someone who designed revolutionary buildings and pushed the boundaries of sustainable architecture. The Ashford Development Group paid her generously. Enough that she could quit the coffee shop by the end of the first month. Enough that she could upgrade from her studio to a small one-bedroom apartment in a better neighborhood. Not luxury but comfortable. Safe. Hers. Her mysterious benefactor communicated only through encrypted messages, always supportive, always pushing her to think bigger. Don't limit yourself to what's been done before, one message read. The greatest architects are remembered for the risks they took, not the safe choices they made. Elena found herself looking forward to these messages. They came at random times, sometimes with project feedback, sometimes with articles about cutting-edge architectural innovations, occasionally with simple encouragement when he seemed to sense she was struggling. She never questioned why James Ashford had chosen her, why he maintained such secrecy, or what his ultimate goals were. She was too grateful for the lifeline he had thrown her. By month 3, Elena had completed the initial design for Willow Heights. It was her masterpiece, far exceeding anything she had created at Sterling and Associates. The community was designed to be almost entirely self-sufficient, with vertical gardens producing food for residents, geothermal heating and cooling, and shared spaces that encouraged interaction and community building. This will change the industry, James Ashford wrote back. You have a gift, Miss Martinez. One that should never have been suppressed. Elena stared at those words, feeling tears prick her eyes. After months of being told she was unstable, jealous, and a thief, someone believed in her talent. Someone saw what she could create. She didn't realize she was being prepared for something much bigger. The industry takes notice. In April, 6 months after her termination from Sterling and Associates, Elena received an unusual message from James Ashford. Instead of a new project brief, he sent a link to an architecture journal. She clicked it, curious, and found herself staring at an article titled, Ashford Development Group Unveils Revolutionary Sustainable Housing Design. Her design, her Willow Heights project, featured across 4 glossy pages with professional renderings and detailed analysis. The article praised the innovative approach, the environmental consciousness, and the bold vision that challenged traditional residential development. But her name was nowhere in the article. The design was credited simply to Ashford Development Group's architectural team. Elena felt a familiar sting of betrayal. Was this happening again? Had she simply traded one thief for another? Her phone rang minutes later. An actual phone call, the first from James Ashford. His voice was deep, cultured, and apologetic. Miss Martinez, I imagine you're upset right now. Let me explain before you hang up. You stole my credit, Elena said, her voice cold. I borrowed it, he corrected. And only temporarily. Miss Martinez, your reputation in New York is currently toxic, thanks to Marcus Chen's very thorough character assassination. If I had published this design under your name, it would have been dismissed immediately. Critics would have called it stolen work, accused you of fraud, and destroyed any chance you had of recovery. So instead you stole it yourself? I protected it, James said firmly. And you. This article is phase 1. In 2 weeks, Architectural Digest is publishing a feature on the Willow Heights project. That article will credit you as the lead designer. By then, the industry will have already praised the work. They can't dismiss it as fraud when they've already celebrated it. Elena sat down slowly. You planned this. Miss Martinez, I've been planning this since the day I sent you that first letter. You're not just talented. You're revolutionary. But revolution requires strategy, not just passion. Who are you really? Elena asked, her mind spinning. Why are you doing this? There was a long pause. Someone once stole credit for my work too. I was young, idealistic, and I trusted the wrong people. It took me years to rebuild my reputation. I swore then that if I ever had the power to help someone in the same position, I would. His words carried weight and old pain. Elena found herself believing him. There's something else, James continued. Next month, the International Architecture Summit is being held in Dubai. I've secured you an invitation to present Willow Heights. Every major firm in the world will be there, including Sterling and Associates. Elena's heart started pounding. I can't. Marcus and Sophie will be there. Exactly. And you'll be there as the lead architect of a project that's garnering international acclaim. Not as Elena Martinez, the disgraced ex-employee, but as Elena Martinez, the innovator who's changing the industry. I don't know if I'm ready. You've been ready since the day they tried to break you, James said quietly. The question is whether you're brave enough to show them they failed. ## the turning point. Elena spent the next 2 weeks in a state of controlled panic. The Architectural Digest article published exactly as James promised, and her phone exploded with notifications. Interview requests. Speaking invitations. Firms that had ignored her applications 6 months ago now wanted to discuss potential opportunities. She ignored most of them. The summit was all that mattered. The night before her flight to Dubai, Elena stood in front of her bathroom mirror, hardly recognizing herself. She had bought a new wardrobe, professional but with her own style. Her hair was shorter, more confident. Her eyes held a hardness that hadn't been there before. Marcus and Sophie had tried to destroy her. They had stolen her work, ruined her reputation, and moved on with their lives. She had spent 6 months in hell because of them. Now it was time for them to face what they had created. The summit was everything Elena had imagined and more. The Burj Al Arab Hotel glittered like a sail against the Dubai skyline. Architecture's elite filled the conference halls, discussing projects that would shape cities for generations. Elena registered under her company name, Martinez Sustainable Design. Her own firm, even if it was currently just her. James Ashford had insisted, saying she needed to present herself as an independent force, not someone's employee. She was setting up her presentation materials when she heard a familiar laugh. Sophie, wearing an expensive dress and diamond jewelry that Elena's coffee shop salary could never have afforded. Marcus stood beside her, looking polished and successful, pointing out someone important across the room. They hadn't seen her yet. Miss Martinez. A hand touched her elbow. She turned to find a tall man in his mid-40s, with sharp gray eyes and a quiet intensity that commanded attention. James Ashford. It's time we met in person. Elena stared at her mysterious benefactor. He was younger than she expected, handsome in an understated way, with silver threading through his dark hair. But it was his eyes that caught her. They held understanding, intelligence, and something else. Recognition of a kindred spirit who had walked through fire. Mr. Ashford. She shook his hand, feeling an unexpected jolt of awareness. Please, just James. We've been working together for 6 months. I think we're past formalities. He smiled, and it transformed his serious face. Are you ready? I don't know, Elena admitted. I keep thinking I'll wake up and discover this is all a dream. Not a dream. Justice. James glanced across the room to where Marcus and Sophie were networking. I've been documenting their fraud for months. Every stolen design, every forged document, every lie they told to the Sterling partners. When you present today, we're not just showing the industry your talent. We're showing them who the real thieves are. Elena's breath caught. What? Your presentation includes a brief section on design evolution, James said casually. A standard industry practice, showing how concepts develop from initial sketches to final design. Your slides will show that development for Willow Heights. They'll also show, for comparison, the documented evolution of the Phoenix Tower design. Your original sketches, dated and time-stamped, compared to the forged versions Sophie submitted. James, that could destroy them. They destroyed themselves when they stole from you. His voice was steel-wrapped in silk. I'm simply making sure everyone knows the truth. Elena looked at Marcus and Sophie across the room, laughing and confident, believing they had gotten away with it. Part of her wanted revenge, wanted to watch them suffer the way she had suffered. But another part, the part that had grown stronger over 6 months of rebuilding her life, wondered if that was really what she wanted. Let me think about it, she said finally. The Phoenix Tower section. Can we remove it? James studied her carefully. Are you sure? This is your chance. I'm sure about showing them my success. I'm not sure about public humiliation. Elena straightened her shoulders. I want to win because my work is better, not because I expose theirs. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. James smiled with what looked like approval. I'll have the slides modified. But Elena, you should know something. The Phoenix Tower has structural problems. Serious ones. Marcus and Sophie modified your original design to cut costs, and the building is now failing inspection. It's going to come out eventually. Then let it come out on its own, Elena said. Today is about my future, not their past. ## the presentation. 2 hours later, Elena stood on stage in front of 300 of the world's most influential architects. Her hands shook slightly as she gripped the remote control for her presentation, but her voice stayed steady. Sustainable architecture isn't just about solar panels and recycled materials, she began. It's about creating communities that nurture both people and planet. Spaces where residents don't just live, but thrive. She clicked through her slides, showing the Willow Heights design in stunning detail. The integrated gardens, the renewable energy systems, the community spaces designed to foster connection. With each image, she saw the audience lean forward with interest. From the 4th row, James Ashford watched with quiet satisfaction. From the 7th row, Marcus Chen's face grew progressively paler.